Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality. This is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and this show is one that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. I created namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and their soul's purpose, simply from their name. The beautiful song that you've just heard, the first part we always end our show with, is called Shine, and it's by Dee L'Amour, and you can hear more of her fabulous music at her website, deelamour.com. It's DLEMOR.com. Our topic today is the historical side of Jesus as represented in the Bible, starting with the Anna, grandmother of Jesus' family. Do we reincarnate in similar or different roles? History has not put that in the Bible, or things in the Bible that most must have missed. Okay, so we want to know more about Jesus' immediate family, Joseph, Mary. If there's time, I'd love to go into Anna, but I don't know if there'll be time, and Jesus and the brothers and sisters of Jesus that oftentimes get overlooked. And our special guest today, who's an absolute expert on this, is Susan Klopfstein. Susan, welcome to Luminescence.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for asking me to speak about such a wonderful topic. I love it.
I knew you loved this topic of Jesus because of all of our private conversations. So let's start with, do we reincarnate together in similar or in different roles? So has this same family constantly come back together?
They have. I've only seen twice that they've come together. The first time that I've seen is Atlantis, and that's the most notable time that they've come together as a whole group. Now, I have seen a number of them come together in the papacy, actually. A number of them have come together to support each other, particularly when one of the brothers was a pope, because we have James and Joseph that have been popes over and over. But I have seen this. I also see them as trying to bring Christianity to another rakia, another cosmoi, if you will. It would have been the 14th rakia, and we're clearing some issues from that period of time at this time. So yeah, people do incarnate together. They're soulmates together. Mm-hmm.
And their soul families. And just so that all of our listeners know, if you don't understand what a rakia is, that's a whole different show. And I do have that down for Susan to talk to us about it at another time. Okay, so Susan, let's start with Joseph. What can you tell us about Joseph and what made him special to be able to be the father of Jesus?
Oh my goodness, there's so much. But I have something that I wanted to talk about, and that is before we even get to Joseph, I just wanted to say just a few things about the family of Jesus. And one issue is I would love our listeners to know that all the family were extremely religious, extremely accomplished, all of them. The Bible would indicate that Anna, grandmother of Jesus, was a single mother, maybe a widow. She's much more. That Mary was a 14-year-old girl. Oh, she's so much more. And that Joseph was a carpenter. In reality, they are all so much more. And can I make a shift on you and start with Anna? Because
sure.
I think she's fascinating too. Okay, and if I start with Anna and go to her husband, all of it starts to pull together in a special way. Now, we don't know a lot about Anna. Anna was a grandmother of Jesus.
Okay, you're starting to come in not clearly. Hold on a minute. Say one more sentence because we want to fix this so we don't have this problem we had last time. Just say one sentence, and I want to make sure it's clear.
Anna was born of the
Nope.
family lineage.
Susan, you're going to have to call back in on a different line. All right? Because we want to be able to hear what you have to say. While Susan's busy calling back in, I want to give you her bio. And Susan Klopfstein is a soul scientist. She's a psychotherapist. She's a spiritual healer and the founder of Soulwealth, which is a healing process that begins where psychotherapy leaves off. Susan graduated Summa Cum Laude with an MA in clinical psychology from the National University in Irvine, California. She's dedicated more than 25 years to developing and mastering the Soulwealth healing techniques, which identify the unique spiritual wealth of information, knowledge, and experience held in the heart of every client. In addition, she's a career counselor who's helped clients identify their intelligence type, their relational gifts, their communication styles, and their functional talents to definitely enjoy, and know what their joy job is and why they're here. There's so many different ways of figuring out why they're here. I love names because it's very clear, but she can do that also. And she helps you to uncover this wealth of information that heals and transforms the soul's pathway. And so she's also a medical intuitive. She's able to grab the basis of an illness and no matter what lifetime it was in and then pull it all the way through and help you get rid of it so that you don't get it again and you don't have it now. But anyway, she's now back online with us. Okay, Susan, let's try this again, starting with Anna.
I'm so sorry. We literally pulled 675 feet of new optical cable to my home to avoid this, and I'm so sorry that this is occurring. I'll go back to the family of Anna. Anna was born in the family. She is the family line of David. Her family was originally from the Essenes of Bethlehem. And Anna has been venerated in the Catholic Church as the Mother of Mary, a child born through Immaculate Conception. We're going to come back to this a few times. In other words, without sin. She came and she had no sin in her being. She was the wife of a priest, a rabbinical priest, and most importantly, again, grandmother of Jesus. And you can find the story of Anna, Mother of Mary, predominantly in the Gospel of James. Now, Anna and her husband, Joachim, were unable to conceive a child, even though they really wanted a baby. And so in the lost books of the Bible, an angel appeared to Anna and told her that a daughter would be born to her, devoted to the service of the temple, who, being a virgin and not knowing man, would bring forth the Lord. And he gave her a sign, namely to meet her husband Joachim at the Golden Gate in Jerusalem, and she was overjoyed to have a child. They waited many years, and I'll get to that when I speak about Joachim, but she produced an extraordinary child, as Mary was also born free from original sin. She was born in Immaculate Conception, and it is written that Anna read the scriptures to Mary when she was a very small child, that Anna had promised that she would give Mary to the service of God, and Anna kept this as a holy vow. So when Mary was 3 years old, her parents literally brought her to the temple and gave her into the service of the temple. And this is an incredible act of self-sacrifice because Anna wanted a child so badly, but she knew that she needed to honor this promise to the Lord. And Anna and Joachim would not be able to raise Mary themselves.
Well, think also for, on Mary's sake, at age 3, where all of a sudden you don't have your parents anymore, and these are the people you love, and all of a sudden you're with others. I think that would be incredibly difficult, too.
Right. Well, her father literally arranged for her to be taken to the temple with a number of virgins on either side of her, holding candles of light, that it would be eternally memorable to her as she served in the temple, that she would never want to come back home. This is just such a beautiful story. And, what else we know about Anna from that? Firstly, it tells us that Anna would have been an Essene Jewish woman of Bethlehem, most likely one of the early rabbis. that she would have been schooled in the mysteries of the Essene faith, probably educated in the 7 major religions of the world, trilingual in Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, and familiar with numerology, astrology, music, the music art of building. And she would have worked through...
Okay, Susan, we're back to you having a problem with your phone. Okay, so you were just saying that she was schooled in 3 languages, Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, and let's try this one more time. What's the next sentence?
That she was familiar with numerology.
Nope, it's all confusing. You got to call in again, and somehow I hope this figures itself out. Why don't you try calling in on the computer on Lucy and see if that doesn't work better for you? Okay?
Let's try a hard one.
We can't understand you, Susan. You're going to have to try to call in again. Okay. So coming back to the family, it is reported in a wonderful book by Claire Hartsong that's called Anna, Grandmother of Jesus. And I think out of all the hundreds of books I've read, that is my absolute favorite that's all about Anna. And again, it's Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, and it's by Claire Hartsong. To my knowledge, Claire's only written 2 books. Both are absolutely beautiful, and if she's written more, I would love to be informed. But absolutely incredible books with a lot of history and background. And in the book, Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, Claire Hartsong claims that Anna actually lived around 600 years. And she was the one that had many, many children. And they all went on to do remarkable things in the religious, what we would call the religious element of the day. And that Joseph of Arimathea was also one of Anna's children, and therefore Joseph of Arimathea would have been an uncle to Jesus. And so as you start to see all these family relationships, then as the story of Jesus unfolds, it makes it easier to see why would this man want to come and help. Okay? And Joseph of Arimathea.
It's interesting, Sharon. It's
yes.
like if I bet she was tapping into Anna's first life, because Anna in the Bible only had one child. That would have been Mary. But in Atlantis, Atlanta had, let me see, she would have been a high priestess, but she would have had many children. At that time they were living to 500 or 600 years. In the life of Atlantis they were. It was after the flood that God limited the amount of years that people could live to 125. That's in the book of Genesis.
Okay, so now that we've got a clear connection, go for it.
Here we go. Look, you know what? This is a great time to shift to Joachim, the father of Mary. Joachim was also of the tribe of David, the tribe of a descendant of Aaron. He was recognized by the temple priests of Jerusalem as a priest, which I find fascinating. So he was responsible for the tabernacle of the temple of Galilee in the city of Nazareth. And Joachim means he who Yahweh has set up, the husband of Saint Anne and the father of Mary. So the Gospel of Joachim actually occurs in the ecryptical Gospel of James, and it says that Joachim and Anna's lives are described as pious, faultless before men. They give a third of their income to the temple, a third to the poor, a third for themselves. They lived 20 years childlessly before vowing that if God would favor them with a child, they would devote their child to the service of the Lord. And what is interesting is they went many years without having a child, and Joachim, who was a high priest, was literally publicly shamed by the high priest Ishtar in the temple for providing offerings to the temple while he remained childish, because the scriptures say that cursed is anyone who shall not beget a male in Israel. And so Ishtar required that Joachim be free from this curse of God. It was literally considered a curse of God before bringing offerings to the temple. So Joachim was confused by this high priest's reproach and afraid of being ashamed by his fellow priests and neighbors in the way, so he refused to return home. Instead, he retreated to the shepherds and to the pastors, and it said there that he literally did 40 days and 40 nights, like Jesus, clearing himself. And an angel appeared to him and said, Anna shall bring forth a daughter, and you shall call her name Mary. She shall, according to your vow, be devoted to the Lord from her infancy, and be filled with the Holy Ghost from her mother's womb. She shall neither eat nor drink anything unclean, nor shall her conversation be among common people, but in the temple of the Lord, that she may not fall under slander of what is bad. And so Mary was literally delivered to Jerusalem at 3 years old and given to the temple priest to be brought up in the temple. And then it was written that literally, and so she shall, while yet a virgin, in a way unparalleled, bring forth the Son of the Most High God, who shall be called Jesus, and according to the significance of his name, be a Savior to all nations. And from that, what do we know about Joachim? I think it's kind of fascinating. First, we know he was recognized as a priest, meaning that he was educated to be a rabbi in the Essene tradition, that he would have met all three of the criteria to be classified as an Essene rabbi, which in that day meant he had to be of the line of David, that he had to be 30 years old, and he had to be married. It's interesting that he probably was married before Anna and probably had other older children and then married Anna.
Well, what's interesting is in Claire Hartsong's book, Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, that Joachim was Anna's second husband. But anyway, we need to break for our first commercial. Please hold your thought. We will be right back with more of the family of Jesus with Susan Klopfstein. Stay tuned.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Susan Klopfstein created an incredible spiritual practice called Soulwealth that releases blockages from your life. Curses, trauma, karma, old commitments and contracts dissolve. Significant health issues, negative beliefs, unhealthy relationships, and destructive behavioral patterns simply fade away. All of the obstructions that no longer serve you on your life path simply dissipate, making possible a more joyous, fulfilling life. Contact Susan Klopfstein at soulwealth.com for a most loving, spiritual Soulwealth session.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. This is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein. Susan, you were just finishing up telling us a story and I had to stop you. So please continue. I'm really going to turn it over to you. I know you have so much information to share.
Well, this is interesting about Joachim, the father of Mary, because literally to have earned this rank of priest, he would have also have been educated in the mystery of the 7 world religions at the time. And in the lost books of the Bible, in the Gospel of the Book of Mary, it states that Joachim is of the tribe of Levi, which is the rabbinical order, but it doesn't say of the tribe of David. And instead, I believe that this original intention is interesting. It means that he carries the knowledge of the hidden knowledge, mystically speaking, of the high priesthood. And he would have been very, very gifted as a claircognizant. He would have been a channeler of Christel Council and Council of the New. This is a highly religious, talented man. And this is something that I really want to impress about the family of Jesus. They were not common, ordinary people. They were very spiritually gifted. At this point, I'd love to talk about Mary, because Mary was born as an only child to Anna and Joachim in Nazareth in fulfillment of God's promise to them. And at 3 years old, she was literally brought to the temple. And her parents, there's a story of her parents putting her on the stairs of the temple, and those stairs are very high. And she's only 3, but she climbed all 15 of those stairs to go into the Holy of Holies. Now, that's amazing for her to do that without any assistance. That was the first indication that she was ready for this extreme temple life. And with it, in the lost books, Mary is said to be ministered to by angels, which means that she literally had conversations with angels, and she received visitations from people sent to her from God. And so the angelic realm taught and protected her. And in the book of Mary, it said that people admired her life and conversation. And literally, when she was 14 years old, the high priest ordered that all the temple virgins, there were between 11 and 14 of them on a normal basis, that they be returned home to Mary, to be married, right? But Mary refused. Can you imagine refusing a high priest?
Yes, it takes guts.
Oh, my goodness. This is the beginning of her courage, let me tell you. She refused to comply. And she and her parents, she said her parents had devoted her to the service of the Lord, and she independently vowed her virginity to God, and that was a vow she was resolved never to break. And so the high priest literally, what am I going to do? He then commanded a meeting of the chief persons, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the rabbis of Jerusalem, to consider what would they do with Mary. And so they prayed about it, and they heard a voice in the Holy of Holies that said to them, in the book of Isaiah, to whom there is a note of whom the virgin should be given and betrothed. And so in Isaiah 5:14, for Isaiah saith, there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a flower shall spring out of its root. And the high priest Zacharias. Now, who is Zacharias? Isn't that amazing? Zacharias is the father of John the Baptist, right?
Right, and married to Elizabeth.
Married to Elizabeth, Jesus' aunt. So Zacharias obeys the command by ordering that all the unmarried men and the widowers, remember, of the house of David bring their rods to the altar, and that the rod that flowers and on which the Spirit of God should sit in the appearance of a dove, that he is the one that should be given to the virgin, right? And I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger, because now we come to the story of Joseph. And, oh, my goodness, now we're going to know why Joseph was picked to be the stepfather of Jesus, right? He first appears in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, and he was the earthly father, known as the earthly father of Jesus Christ and the husband of Virgin Mary, and everything that we know about Joseph comes from the Bible, and yet the mentions of him in the Bible really, really underwhelming, so you don't get a great sense of who he is. So again, referencing the lost books of the Bible, I'm going to go to chapter 6:1. It's a fun story. Of the single man Joseph of the house and the family of David, quote, and a person very far in years, unquote, drew back his rod. And when he was required to put his rod in again, quote, a dove coming from heaven pitched upon the top of it, unquote. Therefore, everyone saw that Mary was to be betrothed to him. And in the Protevangelion written by James, it is said that, quote, I love this, quote, Joseph refused, saying, I'm an old man, over 30, and have children, but she is young, and I fear lest I should appear ridiculous in Israel. Love it.
Very practical.
I mean, he's not going to just grab a young, beautiful person, right? He's a practical man. But Joseph was a pious man who feared the judgment of God, and therefore they were engaged, and he returned to Bethlehem to set his house in order. Mary returned to her parents' home in Nazareth. And when Joseph returned to Galilee to Mary, he found that she was with child. He was very, very uneasy. And it again says in the lost text, for being a just man, he was not willing to expose her or defame her by the suspicion of being a whore, since he was a pious man. And he proposed to put an end to their agreement and put her away privately. And the Bible says, after marrying Mary, it approaches it differently. Joseph found that she was already pregnant, and being, quote, a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, and that's in Matthew 1:19, he decided to divorce her quietly, knowing that if he did so publicly, she would be stoned to death. Okay? So now we have a man who is very kind, who's considerate, who's careful, who's publicly careful. Right?
Yes, and very religious and very talented in his own right, according to Dr. Eugene Whitworth's, all of his research that's available in 9 Faces of Christ. Anyway, keep going.
Well, an angel literally came to Joseph and told him that the child Mary carried was not the work of man, but was conceived by the Holy Ghost. For she of all women shall bring forth the Son of God, and you shall call his name Jesus, that is, Savior, for he will save his people from their sins. And then Joseph, according to the command of the angel, married Mary, but kept her chaste. That's an interesting thing, too. What man does that unless someone is very, very faithful, very strong, very physically strong, very morally strong? Incredible strength this man had. When she brought forth her first son, when Jesus was born, afterwards, the decree was issued from Augustus for taxing the Jews, and
they had to go to Bethlehem.
They were in Bethlehem when Jesus was born, right? And very shortly after that, the wise men came to Joseph again to warn him and Mary about King Herod of Judea and the violence that he'd bring down, not just on Jesus, but on all children under 2. And Joseph, imagine listening to that and deciding to just pick up your child with Mary and flee to Egypt. I mean, you don't know the way. You don't know exactly what's going to happen or how you're going to earn a living there, but you do it to keep your child alive. Incredible courage.
And you first had to go to Jerusalem to register and then never show up at home again.
See, I didn't even factor that in when I was looking at this. It was just amazing to me to have the courage to just pick up and move like that. It's amazing. And then he was also told that when they came back, not to go back to Bethlehem, but to settle in Nazareth, so that they wouldn't be near any of Herod's successors, where it wasn't common to just pick up and move to a different place in any way, much less to move to another city. So coming back to something that you had expressed, who was Joseph? Well, obviously his lineage tracks back to King David. And in addition, in the lost books of the Bible, I think this is most fascinating. In the book of Mary, it is written in 5:15, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding. That's the counsel of Apollo. The Spirit of counsel and might. That is the great white brotherhood. The Spirit of knowledge and piety. That's Christel counsel. And the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. That's Akashic Records counsel.
Wow.
This is not a normal man. This is a high priest. This is probably a member of the high priests of the world, of the 7 leading religions at that time. This would have been one of the absolute religious master. This is not a regular high priest. So I just wanted to be able to convey to people the magnitude of the family of Jesus in these 4 people, because they're astounding. They're just astounding.
What about the brothers and the sisters of Jesus? Because so many people consider him an only child, even though the Bible refers to the brothers and the sisters, because they're like anecdotes to the story instead of being main characters. Now, James played an incredible role.
I wouldn't call them marginal anecdotes. I wouldn't at all. In fact, yeah, I know Mark 6:3, Mark 6:1 to 6:3. Jesus left there and went to his hometown in Nazareth. He was accompanied by disciples. He began to teach in the synagogues, and literally they say, "Where did this man get these things? Isn't this the carpenter? Isn't this Mary's son and the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? Aren't his sisters here with us?" So, yeah, we do know right now he has some brothers and sisters. And if Joseph had another family prior to Jesus, remember, those beings, if Joseph is around 30, they would have been almost adults and gone by that time. Therefore, I do believe that the brothers that they knew of, James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon, were actually stepchildren and Mary's own birth sons. In fact, I want to say that as I studied, I believe that James is another very extraordinary one. James is known as the firstborn son of Mary and Joseph. And in the passage, I remember reading a passage, and I couldn't remember its reference because I believe I read it a long time ago, that James was born also of immaculate conception. And I believe this to be true because otherwise the name of James would never have been chosen first above the name of Joseph. In addition, we know many things about James, but what you don't know, and this I know from because he came in as a client, and he's alive and with us today, which is he's incarnated. So something major on earth will be happening in the next decade. He has an eternal sacred covenant with Jesus to see forward the spiritual evolution of humanity. James also is always depicted with a halo. His divine spirit body is integrated with his physical body, indicating that he is debt-free, that his karmic library was fully cleared. And also it describes in the Bible that James was a confidant of Jesus. 1 Corinthians 15:7. Then he appeared to James, one of a select group of individuals Jesus appeared to after his resurrection. And we also know that James is one of the few that executed all of his responsibilities with a conscious knowledge, like Jesus had, the conscious knowledge that he himself would be crucified, that Jerusalem would be overtaken. And we know that Jesus probably came to James a number of times Because if you think about it, James was a leader of the Jerusalem Council. He was frequently referred to as priest and prayer warrior. It said that he had camel knees from spending so much time on his knees in prayer, right? He is intimately familiar with the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon of the Mount, and we know him as an author writing some of the most practical, beautiful texts of the Bible that we have today. He emphasizes the importance of good deeds and faith, exemplified by a very clean moral lifestyle. I love the books of James. They're beautiful. And James frequently, think about it, in that time, he must have frequently acted as an ambassador between the Pharisees of Jerusalem, the Sadducees of Jerusalem, the Roman government, the Essenes, and the Gentiles of the first church of Jerusalem. He was definitely a mentor to the disciples. He was most trusted by Jesus. He held the vision for the first Christian church of Jerusalem. He also executed the vision and intention of the first Ecumenical Council of Jerusalem. Incredible man. And can you imagine functioning in that level of stress?
Well, you know, he was an incredible Rebbe himself, an incredible teacher. And I understand it from all the readings I've done that if it hadn't been for James, that a lot of Jesus's messages would have been lost.
He hit them. He hit them. But what we can laugh about is I think that some of the things were taken and hidden by the younger brothers, and that was organized by James, and also by Joseph. So I'll come to Joseph, but one thing that I've also seen in Soulwealth prayer is that James holds those two very special sacred covenants with Jesus to be eternally guided to each other. They are eternal guides. They eternally guide and guide each other. When one is on earth, one is in heaven guiding. It is amazing, their agreement, and they function as spiritual brothers and spiritual partners in leading the evolution of Christianity on earth.
So let's come back to more about the siblings of Jesus right after this next break. Stay tuned.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Mark Twain said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Sharon Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. This is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein. Now, if you would like a session with Susan, she does some incredible work, and everybody raves about her work once they've experienced it. You can contact her through her website, which is soulwealth.com. So soul is spelled S-O-U-L and wealth.com. Okay, Susan, continue. You're talking about James, the brother of Jesus.
I wanted to synopsize about James and just say that he is a spiritual partner with Jesus in the evolution of Christianity on earth. He's very powerful. He is a leading member in heaven of the Christel Council, and he is also a leading member of the Great White Brotherhood. He channels with Quill Pen Council, Light Keepers, Council of Benu, extremely talented. And so with that, I wanted to go on to Joseph, because Joseph is the third child of Mary and Joseph. He's also literally known as a priest, probably a frequent public speaker in the synagogue.
Wouldn't it be a rabbi?
In church, rabbi, but known as priest. So remember that in order to have been called priest, he would have been a Essene rabbi and a master of the 7 world religions. And I believe that he mastered many of these in traveling with Jesus and James. And as an Essene, he would have earned his living. Essenes earn their living as in the trades. But they give all of their time to learning about religion. And I believe that Joseph, I have read about this before, and again, it was so long ago, I couldn't remember where the references were, but I read that he was a master administrative organizer for the Christian church, that he's literally a master organizer of the First Inimical Council of Jerusalem. And I see him literally as a member of the Christel Council, the Great White Brotherhood, and he serves in heaven as a master guide and a master organizer of the Catholic Church. Another powerful being. And Simon, I'll go right along because I've got a number of them. They're so fun. Simon is the 4th born stepbrother of Jesus. He would be the 5th child of Mary and Joseph. Simon also would have been an Essene Jewish rabbi. I see him, which is really funny, as a messenger for many missives of James and Joseph to disciples on the road and to many new churches. He was a younger brother. He's a master of 2 world religions, Buddhist and Ra, and incredibly, he is also incarnated at this time. He is a teenager, a young 20, and studying to be an architect. He is also a carpenter. He was, in that lifetime, a gifted athlete and a very gifted healer. So I see him as someone entrusted with critical correspondence who could be stopped, beaten, have accidents, heal himself rapidly, and deliver the verbal or the written messages as needed. I just see him pulling himself right up and go again. I mean, there were many letters and things that were secretly brought to others. I also see him taking some of the speeches of Jesus and hiding them.
Okay.
So I believe we'll have 2 major discoveries in the future. I don't know when. One of them is coming out of a crypt. It'll be interesting to see that occur. But now we'll go on to Judah, because Judah is a 5th-born son. He's the 6th child of Mary and Judas. He's a younger Joseph. He's a younger brother, an Essene Jewish rabbi as well, a master of 2 of the 7 world religions, Buddhist and Ra. And he probably functioned as a deacon of the Christian Church of Jerusalem. Yes, as a rabbi, but he has a different personality. He's more the personality of a counselor therapist, if you will. And he's kind of funny because I see him functioning as the deacon and an administrative assistant to James and Joseph. And I see him taking care of a lot of daily needs of the members of the church, the secret correspondences, the needs of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the needs of the correspondences of the Essenes of Nazareth, of Bethlehem, of Qumran. And I see him as intelligent and trusted, but somewhat crafty. You know, he works himself in amongst a lot of tense situations, and I see him as very humorous. So, and very quietly trusted. In other words, you know, they'll tell their problems to Judah, and then on he goes to do what he's supposed to do.
Well,
so, quite a personality.
I was going to say, in his name, if you look at namology science, it says that he works for God and that he does have a great sense of humor and he's very spiritual and that he knows religion very well and he's very brilliant.
I saw that, and I saw that as a counselor therapist, he came up with some unusual ways to fix things for people. Do you know what I mean? And he would barter. He would barter with the Sadducees for leniency for this for someone in exchange for them doing services for this, and he would barter with the Essene, with the Pharisee. I see him as very humorous and innovative. You know, so it's interesting because I don't know your art. I've tried to learn it, and it doesn't stay with me. But here, I see him doing exactly these things, which is so much a part of his name.
Right, which I think is wonderful because that was one of the first testing grounds when I thought I had all the patterns down as I went to the Bible and started reading, and would the people act like what their names say they would. But anyway, keep going. So who comes after Judah?
Can I talk about the Sisters of Jesus, too? I know that they're not mentioned. They're only mentioned, and the Sisters of Jesus. But this one, I have a different story about because some of these sisters have come into me. There are a number of these incarnated on earth. And, you know, when I do client sessions, I have no foreknowledge. I'm just sitting with someone, and their guardian angels, guides, and teachers give me a list of things to look at. So it has been astounding to me to go back to these lifetimes with so many of the sisters. The oldest sister is Mary Beth. She's the first birth daughter, the fourth child of Mary and Joseph. She was an Essene Jewish woman, a deaconess of the first Christian church, very wise, kind, courageous, a natural children's teacher of Essene Jewish school. And she was a teacher of Pontius Pilate's cub-footed son. She's also a member of the, a member of the Violet Force. So when someone dies, she would walk them into the light very consciously.
Wow.
She's with us today. She's elderly. She's the only one that's very elderly. But she is with us today. And then...
Keep going. We're going to have to go really fast because we only have a few minutes left.
That's all right. I only have a little bit of information on each of them.
Okay.
The next one is Mary Anna, and she was born the second stepsister of Jesus. She is a woman of the church. She dedicated herself in service to the church, to the women, the children, the orphans of the church. She was also an incredible financial manager, a member of the King's Council and Council of Benu. King's Council would be, she understood how to deal with finances, interestingly, and also knew about emotional healing. Then we have Mary Susan, who is the third stepsister of Jesus. She was educated as an Essene Jewish Rebbe. She's a singer, a speaker, a spiritual teacher. She was a healer of the white ray. So she could heal a born aurora. She could heal curses, and she could astral travel to find, this is a funny one, to find the disciples on the road for the priest of Jerusalem and for her brothers, and give them messages for them.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah. And then we have Mary Sharon, who is the fourth born stepsister of Jesus' birth daughter and ninth child of Mary and Joseph. Mary Sharon was educated also as an Essene Jewish Rebbe. She is a gifted educator, a teacher, a spiritual speaker. She is a teacher for all levels of education, a master teacher. She's clairvoyant. She was clairaudient. She was also gifted in prophecy, and she possessed great insight into the study of the Torah. She was a gifted researcher for James and Joseph. She is a member of Christelle Council and Lightkeepers. She is also a member of the Council of Athena. Very gifted being. And the last one we have is Mary Josephine, called Ina, that was the fifth-born stepsister of Jesus, the 10th birth child of Mary and Joseph. She's the younger of all 17, and she was an Essene Jewish woman of the church, one who liked to care for the abused, the rejected women and children. She was an emotional healer, more of the yellow ray, a member of Christelle Council and Council of Benu. And these are the ones that I have the most information on. The only other one that I know of, but I can't get clear on her background, is Mary Rachel. And Mary Rachel seems to be quite hidden for a reason that I don't understand. I know she's been on Earth. I know that she struggles with a rare kind of bone cancer. And they have said to me, she's going to come in. She's going to see you. So if she's out there, I would love for her to come in, and I will work with her. I know how to heal this. But she is a gifted emotional healer. She's a gifted storyteller. She's gifted in working with children. That's what I know about her.
It's interesting. That's 11 children, and it's almost like they need to have one more that's hidden out there someplace so they'd have a happy dozen. Anyway, if you have enjoyed listening to Susan Klopfstein and would like a session with her, again, you can communicate with her and contact her through her website, and it is soulwealth.com. Susan, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show with me. Thank you for making time to come and share, and all the research you do, and able to be able to share that with our listeners. And we always end our radio show with this wonderful song by D. Lemore, DLEMOR.com. And the song is named Shine. Please enjoy and have a fabulous week. And we will be back next week. And next week we have Pat Robertson Rice coming back in. And again, a fabulous topic for you. If you'd like to know about the radio shows ahead of time, to sign up on my website, knowthename.com, for the newsletter that comes out every Thursday morning. Again, thank you for joining us. This is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
Gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. the paintbrush of life stroke the canvas of her. The light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew